This is arguably the most frustrating image in one of America's most baffling cold cases. The location is the Huntington-on-the-Green apartment complex in Orlando, Florida. The time is exactly 12 p.m., noon, on Tuesday, January 24th, 2006. This person, this ghost on the screen, has just parked a black Chevy Malibu. They did not immediately flee. The footage shows they sat in the car for 32 seconds, then got out, locked the car, and calmly, methodically walked away. In every single frame captured by the security camera, a fence post stands in perfect, maddening alignment, completely obscuring the person's face. It is a coincidence so perfect it feels intentional. The car they just abandoned belonged to this woman, Jennifer Kesse, 24 years old, a successful finance manager, a new homeowner, and by all accounts on cloud nine after returning from a vacation with her boyfriend. 4.5 hours before this footage was taken, at approximately 7:30 a.m., Jennifer vanished from her condo 1.2 miles away. Her apartment was found locked. Inside, her shower was still wet. Her makeup was out on the counter. Her work clothes were laid out on her bed. But Jennifer was gone. This is not just the story of a random abduction. It is a deep psychological autopsy of a case plagued by tragic ironies, systemic investigative failures, and a terrifying psychological blind spot that may have cost Jennifer her life. For 19 agonizing years, this case remained frozen in time, defined by this grainy, anonymous image. Until now. Because investigators, after nearly 2 decades of failures, have finally found the one thing they missed, the one thing that can destroy this ghost's anonymity: the DNA. To truly understand the psychology of this crime, you must first understand the victim. Jennifer Kesse was not a person who took risks. She was not naive. She was not careless. In fact, she was the polar opposite. At 24, she was the definition of a high achiever. Friends and family called her the golden child, and she had earned the title. She graduated from the University of Central Florida in 2003 with a degree in finance. She immediately launched a fast-track career at Westgate Resorts, a prestigious timeshare company. Her professionalism was exceptional. She was the youngest employee in her company's history to be promoted to a management position. In a single year, she had been promoted twice. She was independent. She had just achieved a major personal milestone, buying her first condominium, all on her own, at the Mosaic at Millenia complex in Orlando. Her personal life was just as bright. She was in a stable, loving, long-distance relationship with her boyfriend, Rob Allen. Just 2 days before she vanished, she and Rob had returned from a romantic vacation in St. Croix. Her phone calls to her parents after the trip were filled with joy. Her mother described her as just very happy and on cloud nine. Now, in investigative psychology, this profile is not just a tragic detail. It is a key factor in her victimology. Her rapid success, her obvious financial independence, her new home, and her vibrant personal happiness, it all created a profile of high visibility. This kind of visibility doesn't just attract admiration. It can attract dark, negative reactions, professional jealousy, deep-seated envy, or worse, obsessive attention from someone who felt inadequate in her presence. But here is the central, tragic paradox of the entire case. Jennifer was hypervigilant. Her focus, her pepper spray, her phone calls, all of her defenses were aimed at the external threat, the unknown, harassing construction workers. Her shields were pointed at threat A. This intense and completely justified fixation on the known danger may have created a fatal psychological blind spot. It may have left her vulnerable to threat B. an internal threat, someone she knew, someone her subconscious had already classified as safe, or at least not a construction worker, a colleague, an ex-boyfriend, a friend. Her defenses were pointed in the wrong direction. The fact that she was abducted in the light of day, despite all her precautions, proves one of two things. Either the workers coordinated a perfect violent ambush that overpowered her defenses, or the attacker was simply someone she never saw coming. Jennifer chose the Mosaic at Millennia Complex because it was a gated community. It had a security guard. It was supposed to be safe. It was a promise of security that justified the purchase. But that promise was a complete illusion. The reality was dangerously different. The complex was in a pretty tough part of town, just beginning a slow revitalization. More importantly, it was still an active construction site, undergoing massive expansion. Her safe haven was, in fact, filled with a large, transient population of workers. The condo management had made a catastrophic decision. They had allowed numerous construction workers, many of them undocumented immigrants with no background checks, to not just work on site, but to live in the empty, unleased condo units. The security gates were no longer protecting Jennifer from the outside world. They were, in effect, trapping her inside with an unvetted, uncontrolled, and hostile population. A private investigator hired by the Kesse family, Mike Toretta, developed a theory that a group of up to 10 workers was living in the unit directly across the hall from Jennifer's. This gave them a perfect 24/7 vantage point. They could study her routine. They knew exactly when she left for work. They knew exactly when she returned. They knew her car. They knew she lived alone. However, there is a critical fact that complicates this. Jennifer's father, Drew Kesse, has confirmed that canine units did search that exact apartment across the hall. The results were negative. This is a crucial distinction. It doesn't disprove the worker theory, but it does seem to refute the idea that she was dragged into that apartment. If it was the workers, it was likely an abduction for transport. They grabbed her at her door as she was locking it and forced her immediately to her own car. This lines up with the lack of struggle inside her condo. But what about the blind spot? What about the internal threats? While Jennifer was focused on the workers, other men in her life were reportedly focused on her. Let's analyze the known individuals in her orbit. First, the boyfriend, Rob Allen. As is standard procedure, police looked at him first. They had just returned from vacation, but their last call was a disagreement. Rob himself confirmed this. It was a minor argument about the stress of their long-distance relationship. However, Rob was in Fort Lauderdale, over 200 miles and 3 hours away. His alibi was solid. The focus on him, while procedural, likely cost the investigation precious time. This brings us to a much more psychologically compelling figure. Matt Sullivan was Jennifer's ex-boyfriend. According to multiple reports, Sullivan still had feelings for Jennifer and wanted to get back together. This provides a classic, powerful motive of a rejected lover. But what moves this from a simple theory to a chilling red flag is his documented behavior on the exact night before she vanished. On the night of Monday, January 23rd, Matt Sullivan was at the Blue Martini Bar. This bar was located only 0.7 miles from Jennifer's condo. This is a bizarre coincidence. Sullivan lived near the UCF campus, a 25-minute drive away.
Witnesses at the bar reported he was there alone and was visibly intoxicated. He was also reportedly absent from his job the next day. Let's be clear, this is not an alibi. This is a profound behavioral anomaly. Driving 25 minutes across town to get drunk by yourself in the immediate proximity of the ex-girlfriend who just rejected you, who, as he likely knew, had just returned from a romantic trip with her new partner. This is classic trigger behavior. It points to obsession, to surveillance. Was this liquid courage for a planned confrontation? Did he watch her come home? Did he wait? Then there was the third, and perhaps most complex internal threat, the one from her professional life. Jennifer had complained to her father about a married colleague at Westgate who was making unwanted advances and giving her inappropriate attention. Other employees identified this man as her supervisor, Johnny Campos. Here, the motive is a toxic mix of sexual rejection and a bruised ego, amplified by a power dynamic. He was her boss. A colleague, Francisco Aragon, later stated that Campos was upset by her rejections. He was also visibly annoyed when he heard about her recent vacation with Rob Allen. But like Sullivan, Campos's most suspicious behavior occurred on the day of the disappearance. He allegedly showed up to work late on Tuesday, January 24th. He was described as sweaty and acting chaotic. Later, he made a disturbing and deeply inappropriate comment to his colleagues, suggesting that Jennifer was probably, quote, eaten by alligators. Psychologically, a comment like that is either a grotesque attempt to distance himself with dark humor, or, more sinisterly, it's leakage, a subconscious or even intentional hint of knowledge about how bodies are disposed of in Florida. But the strongest psychological evidence against Campos isn't his behavior that day. It's his behavior after. That same colleague, Francisco Aragon, claimed that after he shared this information with police, Campos systematically harassed and intimidated him. Not for days, not for weeks, for years. This campaign of intimidation, Aragon claims, ultimately led to his firing from Westgate. If true, this demonstrates a chilling psychological profile. It shows a pattern of ruthless, methodical control, a capacity for long-term, calculated manipulation to ensure silence. This is the profile of a man who is not impulsive. He is a controller, and he is a profile that perfectly aligns with someone capable of planning, executing, and concealing a complex abduction. So what really happened on the morning of January 24th? The timeline is everything, and the facts paint a very specific picture. Let's first establish the last known contact. That was Monday, January 23rd at approximately 10 p.m. Jennifer is on the phone with her boyfriend, Rob Allen. They have, as he terms it, a disagreement. He confirmed it was not a major fight, but a simple, relatable argument about the stresses of their long-distance relationship, likely amplified after the high of their vacation. The call ends normally. Now, early online theories and media reports often focused on a, quote, knock at the door that Rob supposedly heard during this 10 p.m. call. This theory suggested a nighttime abduction. This has been definitively debunked. This clarification from her father, Drew Kesse, is vital. It rules out a Monday night abduction and shifts the entire focus of the crime to the morning of January 24th. When Jennifer's parents, frantic with worry, gained access to her apartment later that day, they found what can only be described as a behavioral snapshot. It was a morning routine violently and suddenly interrupted. The physical evidence inside the apartment was a silent witness. There was a wet towel on the dryer. The shower stall itself was still damp. Her nightgown or pajamas were on the floor. On the vanity bathroom, her makeup was laid out. Her hairstyling tools, like a curling iron, were left out on the counter. On her bed, several options for her work clothes had been laid out. Her contact lens case was on the counter, but the lenses were gone, indicating she was wearing them. This evidence freezes the exact moment in time. Jennifer was abducted after she had showered and after she had begun her morning routine, but before she had finished getting dressed, putting on her shoes, and walking out the door. This narrows the window of abduction to her usual departure time, somewhere between 7:30 and 7:45 a.m. But the two most important clues were these. 1. The apartment was found locked. 2. There were zero signs of forced entry or any struggle inside the unit. This combination proves definitively that the attack did not happen inside her home. The perpetrator didn't break in. They waited. The most probable scenario is that she was ambushed as she stepped out of her apartment, perhaps while she was in the vulnerable position of locking her door. The items that were missing tell the rest of the story. Her keys, her 2 cell phones, her iPod, her wallet, and her briefcase. This was not a robbery for profit. This was an abduction focused on absolute control and transportation. They took her keys to take her car. They took her phones to cut her off from the world. But the most violent evidence of all wasn't found in her apartment. It was found on her car. In 2020, previously unreleased crime scene photos were published by Fox News. They showed clear evidence of a violent struggle on the hood of her 2004 Chevy Malibu. Her father, Drew, was forced to describe the horrifying images. Quote, "It looked like someone was thrown down on the hood, hands spread, and then dragged back. You can almost see fingers scratching across the hood." This is the single most important piece of physical evidence in the entire case. It confirms the timeline. No struggle inside, a violent struggle at the car. The attack was an ambush on her way to work. She was either forced to her car, or she made it there herself, only to be overpowered. The attacker was violent, chaotic, and likely sexually motivated, and yet they were also forensically aware. Initial DNA tests from inside the car were inconclusive, suggesting the attacker, despite their rage, had the presence of mind to wipe it down. Let's re-establish the timeline of the perpetrator. At approximately 7:30 a.m., they have Jennifer and her car. At 12 p.m., noon, they abandon the car at the Huntington on the Green. That is a 4.5-hour gap. This was not a panicked, impulsive crime. This was not a grab and dash. 4.5 hours is an enormous amount of time. It is enough time to commit the assault. It is enough time to murder. It is enough time to drive to a primary or secondary location. It is enough time to dispose of a body. And it is enough time to think, to meticulously plan the disposal of the car. And this brings us back to the ghost at the fence, the POI on the video. The individual parks the car. And then what? They sit there for 32 seconds. This is the most psychologically revealing action of all. A panicked person, a worker who just committed a crime of opportunity, flees. They run. A person who sits for 32 seconds is doing something methodical. They are likely performing a final careful wipe down of the steering wheel, the gear shift, the interior door handle. They are gathering their things. They are taking a breath. They are composing themselves before stepping into the world. After exiting, the POI locked the car and walked away calmly. This does not suggest a panicked worker. This suggests a cold, methodical, and forensically aware individual, now in the cool-down phase of their crime. The tragic, almost cinematic irony of the case is that the complex's surveillance camera was set to take pictures in 2 to 3 second intervals, and in every single frame, as the POI walked past the fence, their face was perfectly, impossibly blocked by a single fence post. This investigative bad luck was fatally compounded by the catastrophic initial police response. When Drew and Joyce Kesse, having found the, quote, behavioral snapshot in Jennifer's apartment, called 911, their fears were dismissed. Drew Kesse recalls that the first officer on the scene looked around for no more than 30 seconds and declared it was likely just a fight with his boyfriend and that she'll be back. Because Jennifer was 24 years old,
police immediately applied the adult discount, refusing to treat it as a crime and assuming she had left voluntarily. Her family had to beg and convince them to even start an investigation. This initial, dismissive assumption cost them the most critical 6 to 12 hours of the entire case. The golden hour for a missing person was lost. That was the time when the Mosaic complex could have been locked down. That was the time when every car, every unit could have been searched. And most importantly, that was the time when the construction workers, the #1 persons of interest, could have been detained and questioned. But by the time OPD mobilized, it was too late. As soon as police presence was known, the workers, many of them undocumented, had, in the words of investigators, scattered. They vanished, and with them, any chance of ever corroborating or disproving the worker theory. The trail went cold almost instantly because it was allowed to go cold. For more than a decade, the case went nowhere. It was a perfect storm of failure, a forensically aware killer, a maddeningly lucky camera angle, and a botched initial police response. Frustrated by decades of inaction and what they felt was gross negligence, the Kesse family did something unprecedented. In 2018, they filed a civil suit against the Orlando Police Department, demanding they be given the complete, unredacted case file, over 16,000 pages of documents. OPD fought back, claiming the case was active and that releasing the files would jeopardize it. The family won. This lawsuit was the turning point. It transformed the Kesse family from passive, grieving victims into active, the primary investigators of their own daughter's disappearance. The immense public pressure from this lawsuit is likely what forced OPD in 2022 to finally transfer this stagnant case to a new agency, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, or FDLE. And the FDLE found what the OPD had missed for 19 years. In October of 2025, Drew Kesse made a stunning announcement. The FDLE had officially informed the family that Jennifer's case is, quote, no longer cold. This wasn't just words of encouragement, it was an official change in status. The reason? The FDLE discovered DNA in evidence that was never tested. Let that sink in. The physical, scientific evidence that could potentially solve this case has been sitting on a shelf untested for nearly a decade. As a direct result of this new DNA work, the FDLE informed the family that the list of persons of interest has shrunk considerably and is down to a few people. Drew Kesse says he can hear the audible excitement in the FDLE team's voices. They truly believe they are finally on the right path. The psychological profiles that have been built for years, the obsessive ex, the controlling manager, the anonymous workers, are finally being tested against the hard, cold science of genetic identification. The blind spot that plagued this case for 19 years is finally coming into focus. Jennifer Kesse was the victim of a brutal and calculating attack, but she was also the victim of a systemic failure, an investigative blind spot that dismissed her as a runaway and let the golden hour tick away. Her case is a tragic lesson in the dangers of assumptions. The assumption that a gated community is safe. The assumption that a 24-year-old woman with a boyfriend problem just ran off. And the most tragic assumption of all, that her fears about the men harassing her were just paranoia. Her hypervigilance wasn't paranoia, it was intuition. It was accurate. And she was failed.